The college basketball season is over, but it's never too early to start talking about next year. I'm Myron Medcalf here with Eamonn Brennan, ESPN.com, and we're talking about the early top 25 for next season. Eamonn, who is the favorite to be number one for 2014-2015?
Yeah, well, we call it the way too early top 25 for good reason. This is a non-binding document. It's a day after, not even a day after the national title, and we've got 7 months of off-season and dismissals and suspensions and who knows what else to come between now and the start of next season. But I think early on, right now, it's safe to say Arizona has a slight edge over two other teams that I think are going to be in that number one discussion as we get closer and closer to the 2014-2015 season. A lot hinges on whether Nick Johnson comes back. I think if Nick Johnson returns, and reports are he's about 50-50 right now on his decision, he'd probably be about a second-round pick. If he decides to come back, then Arizona's going to have pretty much everybody back, including Brandon Ashley, obviously, who was hurt in February with that injury. He'll be coming back. From a team that was the best defensive team in the country pretty much all season long, a number one seed. If Johnson leaves, I still think the Wildcats are in the discussion, but it's maybe not as certain compared to our other two teams, which are Duke and Kentucky at this point in time.
Well, and speaking of Duke and Kentucky, this Duke recruiting class, I mean, Coach K is bringing in a lot of talent.
Yeah, I mean, the number one player in the class, and Jahlil Okafor, as a point guard, Tyus Jones, is a really solid player that a lot of coaches really like. Because he's really talented, but he's also going to run stuff. You don't have to just do screen and roll with him. He's going to be able to play in the flow of Duke's offense. It's going to be really interesting to see how that group mixes in with a really solid group of returning players. Jabari Parker's not going to be there. He's supposedly considering his decision and thinking about it, and it wouldn't be a total shock relative to maybe some other guys, but he's probably not coming back. But even so, Quinn Cook, Rasheed Suleiman on the perimeter with Jones, and Okafor down low with Emil Jefferson, who had a great season this season. That's a really solid crew, and there are still some recruiting decisions to figure out down the line here. But right now, Duke's recruiting class is one of the best of Coach K's career, and he's got a lot of good guys coming back.
How do you measure a team like Kentucky when you could have 6-7 guys? Maybe they come back, maybe they go.
Kentucky, every year they're in the discussion. Last year they were in the NIT, and we had them number one in our preseason poll, as did everyone else, because they always have talent coming in. It's no different this year. It's going to be, to me, it's most interesting. They've got good guys coming in, obviously. Trey Lyles is the sort of star of their class, but Carl Towns is a center that's going to be a real solid player. It's going to be interesting to me to see who stays from this Kentucky team, if anyone. Does Dakari Johnson decide to stay, maybe work on his body for a year before he decides to declare for the NBA draft? I think the Harrisons right now are predicted as second-round picks, but they seem like they're leaning towards going. I think Randall, James Young, those guys are gone, but Marcus Lee, center, who had a big role in Kentucky getting to the Final Four and is freakishly athletic. He develops his game, rounds out a little bit. Add that to the recruiting class they've got. Kentucky's another national title contender again next season.
The team that Kentucky played Monday night, UConn. Also some decisions on that team. What do you think about the Huskies for next season?
UConn will lose Shabazz Napier. Obviously, that's a huge loss, but Ryan Boatwright's back. Arguably, DeAndre Daniels is going to be back. Maybe needs to work on his body before going pro, but his stock has risen a lot in this draft. And then you look at Wisconsin. That's a team that basically everybody's coming back. Frank Kaminsky, Sam Decker could both be Player of the Year candidates next season. I think Decker is on the verge of a breakout type of campaign. And they've got their backcourt back with Josh Gasser and Trayvon Jackson and Nigel Hayes in the front court. So a lot of interesting players for Wisconsin, a lot of interesting teams at the top of the way too early top 25 poll.
Well, we'll see what happens here in the coming days and weeks, see how it all shakes out. For Eamonn Brennan, I'm Myron Medcalf. Make sure you go to ESPN.com for all your college basketball news.